As a young man, Todd Robinson loved working with his hands. In fact, his love of power tools became an integral part of his evolution as an artist.
I went to trade school after I graduated. Sort of dropped out of that and went to art school. And after a year in fine arts, I was looking for something else. And I got hired by an architectural signage firm. And that's when I really noticed that, hey, I can work with big power tools and machinery and still create art with it. And that was the real turning point for me. I suddenly realized, hey, this is great. You know, I can take my two loves and start creating with them. Basically what I do is get up, I have my coffee, and start working. I always have something on the go. So it's, I live in my space, and it makes it so much more creative just by having all this art and work surrounding me all times.
Todd Robinson is one of those rare examples of an artist whose work and life are absolutely integrated. Almost every room in Todd's house has become a designated workspace.
I have a room where I do all my design work and my drawings and my layout, and then I have a computer room where I start scaling and drafting and doing all the overall finishing designs. And then I've got my shop out back where I do all my final work. And the kitchen just occasionally becomes a workspace.
Todd is one of a growing number of artists moving to the Alberni Valley.
I think what really attracted me was the area and the cost. It was, after leaving Vancouver, this was a very reasonably priced town to start my own business in. It was tough at first. You know, I had to, when I left Vancouver, I left all my connections back there. So it was, you know, I had to make all sorts of new connections in town here with different artists, different arts community groups, and that's sort of how I got to know all the other artists in the town here.
Todd Robinson's journey to becoming a full-time, self-supporting artist is underscored by his dedicated work ethic and his self-described hands-on method.
Yeah, right from a young age, I was always pretty artistically inclined, drawing everywhere with anything I could get my hands on. You know, I came from sort of a blue-collar family, so art wasn't really something that was, I guess you'd say, viable employment. But I've always been hands-on. I like to teach myself how to do things. That way I don't have any, you know, I don't see any limitations with what I'm doing because basically I don't know better. You know, we bought a sandblasting machine at one of the signage shops that I worked at. And yeah, after work one day, one of the guys said, well, come on, I'll show you how this whole thing works. And once I saw what you could do sandblasting glass, that was pretty much it for me. I knew which direction I sort of wanted to follow. I was working for a studio, a glass studio on the mainland, and they were starting to downsize and phase out that sort of area of the business. And so I thought, well, you know, this is something I'd really like to continue doing. So I thought, you know, I'll give myself 10 years. That was my goal when I came here. I think the best piece of advice I was ever given was by my cousin Rob. You know, he said, just because you're a good artist doesn't make you a good businessman. So he says, make sure you learn both aspects. Otherwise, you'll be good at one, but you just won't be able to get anywhere. It's 10 years and things have actually started to really take off in the last little while, so it all worked out. I've got to thank the signage business for that, because there's always been little aspects of the stuff that I've picked up in the different signage shops I worked at. You know, like I said, I was always creative. I guess it wouldn't have been really till I got into doing the sandblasted glass that it actually, to me, and started getting some gallery shows, then it sort of dawned on me, hey, I guess you can call yourself an artist now, you know? There's something about doing it by hand that always interests me. Well, like I was saying, I like the process. I'm old school. I still like hand cutting my stencils. You can just take your stencil and fix it on the fly. I can change as I go when I'm drawing. I do a lot of work on colored glass and lacquer and paint onto the glass. And then I do metal work with copper mostly, burnishing it with flame in areas. And when you actually put it behind the glass, that's where you get that real distinct, almost like a raku, I've heard people say it looks like. It changes as the light changes in the room, the color on the art piece changes all the time too, so it's not a static piece.
Every artist evolves as his work progresses, and Todd Robinson is no exception.
I've really expanded outside of the glass now. I mean, it is what I'm best known for, but I work in stone and metal and wood, and so I'm sort of going with those a little more now. Still keeping the glass work going, but you know, it's trying to branch out and experiment with other things. The wall out at Drinkwaters was kind of fun. You know, I got to work with the marble tiles. For me, it's all about the process of the work. It's not so much about the actual finished piece. I like the steps, right from sitting down with a scrap of paper and working out a design all the way through the finishing, you know, the drawing, the scaling to size, picking the materials you're going to work with. And to me, that's the fun. That's what I enjoy. By the time I get finished, it's time to move on to something else.
How does a piece of art begin? With an idea or an image? For Todd, his inspiration is often found within the material itself.
It's whatever I see in a piece of something. You know, sometimes I have a specific idea in mind that, yeah, I want to try this, but a lot of times it is really organic. Like, I'll get a piece of driftwood and just something about the shape of it, suddenly you just go with it.
Todd's first major work was commissioned as part of the 2010 Olympic Games. It was based on a collaboration with First Nations artist Tim Paul.
You know, we worked really well together, and that just opened it up. I've worked with Gordon Dick. We did the market, the Seashap Market, and that was another big one. It's nice. I like collaborating with artists. It always brings something new to the mix.
The computer has become pivotal for artists in many ways. The studio is often a solitary place, but the computer is a link to collaborators and galleries all over the world.
Yeah, without actually leaving your home. You know, we still stay that way when we're artists. You know, this is my area, and I'm always working. But yeah, it does offer like a whole world. You know, I met a whole bunch of different artists basically online, and we've actually been doing quite well. I'm working with artists up in Alaska, down in Washington State, and so it's opening me up to a whole new avenue.
Todd Robinson has a strong work ethic, and his success means he is always working. We asked him what he does to recharge after long days and nights in the studio.
That's when I usually think it's time to, you know, pack up the truck for a week or two and just get on the road and travel. when I go away, it's to get away from the whole art thing.
Today's artists are conscious of how the environment and their health may be impacted by their work. In Todd's case, working with glass and metals can be particularly dangerous.
You always have to know your environment. You know, we work with a lot of acids and things like that. So if you're not paying attention to your surroundings when you're working, you can really hurt yourself. At least one point during the day, I try to get out and go for a hike and just get away from it all. There's so much around here just to get away. It's a very strange pursuit in life. The hours are crazy. And you know, you never know when the inspiration's gonna hit. You know, it could be 11 o'clock in the afternoon, it could be 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm doing what I love. So there's really, at this point, I really don't need anything more right now. I mean, I'm just, I guess what they say, living the dream. I mean, I'm surrounded by my work. I'm always working. And I'm working with other great artists. So for me, this has been really fun. I'm just happy to be creating all the time. And that's what it is for me.